Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1. Andy H. Wing, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Pastor Dick Bass from Life Point Baptist Church. Thank you for coming out today, and after the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we come this morning to your throne of grace with thanksgiving and praise for the great God you are, for the loving God you are, for establishing and watching over government. We pray this morning for your hand of grace. We ask you, Father, as we lift Judge Whitley to you, that you give him wisdom beyond his years. That you give him understanding the needs of this county in such a way we'd have to know your hand was upon it. We pray for these commissioners, Father. Enter into this meeting in friends. We conduct our business as gentlemen, and we leave this place knowing that we've honored Christ with our lives. We ask these things, Father, trusting and believing they're going to happen because we ask them in the name of our precious Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Brother Bass, thank you for being out here with us this morning.
Thank you, sir.
President. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have some agenda announcements for you today. Actually, there's 4 of them, plus one other additional announcement. We'll start on the administrator section.
So that would make 5? 4 plus 1 more?
The other one is just general in nature.
Oh, okay.
Has nothing to do with this.
It's not an announcement?
Well, it's not an agenda announcement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll email you on this, okay, Judge, that way. Okay, let's start this again. All right. Under the administrator section, item A4, we've added one additional request to the out-of-state travel request. That's for Dr. Parker at the Public Health Department. Under the District Attorney's Office, item C1, this is a consulting contract to the District Attorney's Office, Tarrant County, and Crash Dynamics. We've we've corrected an accounting code as it relates to that particular item. Under Human Resources, under the Receive and File the Personnel Agenda, there's additional information on that than was in your book previously, and Ms. Glenn will explain that when she gets up here. Then under Transportation, item J1, again, we have corrected an accounting code as it relates to that particular item. There are no other changes on that. And then finally,
In your general comments?
my general announcement is that we will have a commissioner's court, a special call commissioner's court this coming Thursday, starting at 10:30, for the sole purpose of canvassing the votes of the last election. There are no other items that will be on that agenda. It should take about 5 minutes. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of November the 8th.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Under our proclamations and resolutions, we have a proclamation today on Tarrant County Adoption Day. I believe that Gil Day, who's a member of that committee, is here, so come forward and let me read it into the record, and then I'll come down and present it to you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Whereas there are thousands of Texas children who have been abused or neglected or abandoned by their natural birth parents, and more than 1,100 of these children are in Tarrant County, and whereas many of these children's only hope for a full and productive life is to be accepted by loving homes, and whereas adoption allows children to be reared in a safe, loving, and nurturing environment, as adoptive parents take on the role of guiding, teaching, nurturing, and loving children in order to provide them the best possible chance for being productive citizens. And whereas we commend these families for the sacrifice they are willing to make to enhance the lives of these children, and whereas the children being adopted today by these loving and special families will have a new chance in life to fulfill their hopes and dreams, and whereas this is a special day to celebrate, and we send our best wishes to children whose adoptions are made final today and to the wonderful families who will give them unconditional love. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim November 18th, 2011 as Tarrant County Adoption Day, in witness whereof we've heretofore we've set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of November 2011. And I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. If you've not had an opportunity to go over and to be a part or watch this, I would strongly encourage you to do that. Several of the folks from around the county and various departments go with this each year. It is a great day. It is a great opportunity. You see kids and parents who are extremely excited about everything that goes on. So if you have a chance, try to make it over. It's Thursday. It's Friday morning. And bright and early, probably 8:45, I believe, is when it starts. So, thank you very much. Please make any comments you'd like to make.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Honor, members of the court. It's a privilege to accept this, and please come on over. And there's lots of joy and happiness going on. You'll love it. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. How many kids will be receiving Forever Families?
We have 30 families adopting children, some multiple, most of them single children going to families, so it'll be wonderful.
Excellent.
Please come join us.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
It is a tremendous effort. I know that all of our courts over there, their staffs, they all work on this. Judge Boyd, our district clerk, just everybody, a lot of the attorneys, the private attorneys, donated their time to prepare all the documents and to help with all of that. It is really a tremendous collaborative effort to make this possible, and these kids are so happy, as are the family members and the parents. But it is a great deal, and it's something that we continue to be very proud of in Tarrant County. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. I hope everybody will attend.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Next, court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have three public hearings.
Correction that was made.
Yes. Yes. So noted. We have three public hearings today.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we do have three public hearings today. They all concern basically the same thing, which is resolutions for the approval of taxation of goods in transit, which would otherwise be exempt from taxation as it relates to tax code section 11.253. And I'll give you a general comment on this, and then we can go through the three public hearings. Back in 2007, this Commissioner's Court approved a resolution which basically allowed us to tax goods that are in transit here that come through Tarrant County. During the last legislative session, through Senate Bill 1, those actions of the Commissioner's Court were nullified to provide some redefinitions of what goods would be in transit and what would not. Because of that, in order for us to continue to tax these goods, we need to pass resolutions not only for Tarrant County but also for the hospital district and the emergency services district. As it relates to Tarrant County and the hospital district, We currently are taxing an amount up to almost $4.4 billion, $5 billion. If we do not take this action, that amount comes off our tax roll. And we would like for the court to consider approving these resolutions that would keep us in compliance and conformity of what we're currently doing. And with that, Your Honor, we will open it up to public hearings.
A question.
Yes, sir.
In what ways did the legislature change the previous policy?
First of all, what it did, it nullified any prior decisions of political subdivisions. It also created an exception for taxes that are in good in transit, so that those that are pledged for the payment of a debt can still be considered. Let me see if there's any additional ones. It clarifies that goods in transit include only those goods stored under a contract of bailment by a public warehouse operator. This provision is to give effect to the constitutional requirement that goods in transit be detained at a location in Texas not owned or controlled by a property owner. That's where the correction is, the clarification.
Okay, we're going to have 3 public hearings, one for the county, one for the hospital district, and one for our emergency services district. And so we'll begin with a public hearing with regards to the Tarrant County portion of this. And I would ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. There appearing to be none, I'll close the public hearing. Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. I will now open the public hearing to discuss this matter for the Tarrant County Hospital District. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this matter? Appearing to be none, then I'll close the public hearing.
Move for approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And finally, I will open the public hearing to discuss this matter with the Tarrant County Emergency Service District Number 1. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to the matter? There appearing to be none, I will close the public hearing.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, members of the court. If we can now move to the administrator section. Item A1, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court receive and file the documents which were submitted to the U.S. Department of Justice as it relates to the redistricting of justice precincts in Tarrant County.
So moves. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is there a reason why we simply say justice precincts versus justice of the peace and constable precincts?
It's because the constable precincts are the same as the justice of the peace.
They're just required to.
And they're called justice precincts.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Just a note on this, they will be on file in the county clerk's office. They will also be on file in the administrator's office. We will post this on the website for anyone who would like to come down and look at that document.
Yeah, I had someone last week, in fact, ask me where they might be able to see that, and I told them that I felt like it would be on our website.
The announcement is on the website. The documents are fairly thick, and it announces that you can either go to the clerk's office or to our office to see those.
Okay.
And that's stated, I believe.
Would the proposed map be something that we could put on the website?
I believe it may be on there already, but if not, we'll add those. As it relates to redistricting, just a note, we have received word from the Justice Department, and the redistricting for commissioners' precincts have been pre-approved.
Good.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 3 items open for approval by the court. First one is a consulting services agreement with Crash Dynamics. They review our death cases where there's a possible DWI and possible intoxication manslaughter case to be filed, and they review it for crash scene and possible accident reconstruction.
And possible what?
Accident reconstruction.
Sometimes reconstruction. Okay. Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The second item was with regard to expert witnesses services. In the event that we need these people to come and testify after we have determined that perhaps there is a case that needs to be filed and needs to be pursued, we will need these people to come testify as well, and we split it up, and this is the second contract. This is for their expert witness services.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor. The third item is a renewal of a contract with Max Courtney for forensic consulting services. In the past year or 6 months, I'm not sure how long the original contract's for, we've used him to help the lawyers understand what they might need to be looking for in terms of firearms analysis and other things like that. And it's been very successful, as I understand it, and we're requesting it be approved by the court.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Phillips. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is requested that Commissioners Court approve a construction management contract with W.G. Yates and Sons Construction Company for construction management services related to the construction of the new civil courts building project included in the 2006 Capital Improvement Program.
I will move for approval.
I'll second it.
Second for the sake of discussion. I thought when we hired this firm, we were hiring a joint venture or a co-venture of some kind. Now it's just W.G. Yates and Sons. Why is that?
Commissioner, we are contracting directly with W.G. Yates and Sons Construction Company to, if something goes wrong, we'll be closer to their money. There's no partnership.
Do they have a partnership, or do they have, what's...
They have an agreement, and I can let Doug or Anthony explain that. They have a partnership, and they are partnering to deliver this project. But as far as contracting with the county, we want to go, if we have an issue, just to be very frank with you, if we have an issue, we want to be able to go after that $50 million umbrella insurance policy.
It's a big umbrella. Do you want to...
Big enough to include the partner. I'd like to hear from the two groups involved.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Doug Thompson. I'm Vice President and Division Manager for Yates Construction and also Managing Partner of the joint venture that Commissioner Brooks was talking about. Anthony Burks is my partner. When we originally did the proposal, we proposed as a joint venture. In discussions with facilities management and the county attorney, the preference was to contract with the bigger entity, W.G. Yates and Sons. So we modified our joint venture agreement to say that the joint venture will manage the project just as we proposed it. The same partnership we have is in place, only the contracts will be held by W.G. Yates. So there's no real difference in what Anthony and I agreed to begin with.
I disagree that there's no real difference. There is a real difference because the purpose of doing it the way that it was done as a joint venture was to give the joint venture partner experience, enhanced capacity to do greater work, build their bonding capacity. If they're not going to be a named part of the contract, then that whole philosophy is negated.
Okay, hold on just a second. Because I hear what Commissioner Brooks said, but I don't believe you're the one that originated that discussion, so why don't you step back and let the DA's office or facilities step in here and explain why that's what y'all suggested have happened.
Commissioner, I've given the reason why I suggested we do that is because it is a large, complicated project. And at least from my understanding, from my peers in the Construction Owners Association of America and others that the county allows me to attend meetings and talk with folks, for contractually, when you have a large contract, a complicated project, the simpler the better. That's the reason.
Insurance companies, bonding companies will insure or bond whoever the primary person on the bond asks to be insured or bonded. I don't think that we should be sitting up here determining that we want to do it the simpler way because it's easier for us and ignoring other good public benefits.
Okay. I think is there any other discussion or recommendations at this time?
Well, I guess my question would be, are the two companies, are both companies capable separately to get $50 million, $60 million, $50 million performance bond or a construction bond?
Separately, VNDOM, we're not able to get a $50 million bid bond, but for some reason, some way or another, I would like it to be a situation where VNDOM is actually included some way or another on the actual contract as well.
What is your current bonding capacity?
Our current bonding on a single job is actually going to be $2 million. On aggregate, it's going to be $10 million.
But the rest of the joint venture is, that
Yes.
part of it has remained the same.
Yes.
It has not remained the same because the responsibility has been transferred to one entity, and in effect, the partner becomes nothing more than a subcontractor in the deal.
Well, again, that's at the recommendation, though, of our folks, not at the insistence of...
I'd be happy to provide the joint venture agreement that essentially states that the partnership is still in place no matter who holds the contract, and provide that to the Commissioner's Court. Our intent was to do exactly what Commissioner Brooks said, build capacity, build a partnership, and help VNDOM grow their business as part of the original proposal. And the intent and the action, we're perfectly willing to hold the contracts whichever way the county prefers. But those documents clearly state that it is truly a partnership with VNDOM. And Anthony and I have signed that document, and we're operating today, and we'll continue to operate just as if it is a joint venture holding the contracts.
Okay, let me understand this. There is a legal instrument that has been executed by the principals of both companies.
Yes, sir.
Forming a joint venture
That's correct.
to implement this construction project.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
However, the contract with Tarrant County is between Tarrant County and Yates.
Yes, sir.
VNDOM is not named on the contract. And the reason is to make it easier for the facilitation of bond and other matters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We cannot issue a bond and so forth under the name of this joint venture.
No, sir.
Or make it more difficult?
Could.
Sure they could.
I think you could. I think that I don't want to put words in the mouths of the attorneys, because surely they've got enough words in there already. But what you're simply saying is that if it's in a joint venture, and something were to go terribly bad and it go all wrong, then as we go to try to collect on that bond, the bond for Yates may say, hey, look, half of that needs to be coming from the bond for Anthony, and Anthony's bond may not be able to cover that.
It's an umbrella bond that would cover both parts of the joint venture. You're only dealing with one bond. And this court voted to award the contract to that joint venture. And I don't see why the district attorney's office is trying to contravene the will of this court to contract with who we wish to contract with for the sake of simplicity.
Let's get one thing straight. I don't believe that I've been asked this question by facilities And I've only talked to Mr. Yates as to shaking his hand. So before we spend too much time talking about me, let's get it straight. I haven't talked to anyone about this. I know my name was mentioned as having had a role in this. My only role has been, David asked me to look at the Yates contract. I looked at it and signed off on it. I haven't looked at another way to do it because no one's asked me to do it another way.
See, there we are.
Y'all step back.
Who assumed the risk?
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Come on, step back. Come on forward. Well, let's let him go with him. We'll all get an opportunity here. No, I think.
Commissioner Brooks.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes, sir. I understand your concern. And another thing also, we have a joint venture as such with Gilbane and Pegasus. We have a contract with Gilbane. Our established pattern is to do this sort of contract with a majority partner. It's something we've had established pattern to do. I didn't think it would be any different with this. I apologize for that.
Commissioner Vickers?
Yeah, David, what's our main goal here?
It's to construct a...
Yes, construct a building.
Yes, sir.
With as little risk as possible, I would hope, to the county?
To
Yes.
the county and the taxpayers. That's right.
To the taxpayers?
Certainly wasn't trying to circumvent anything any goals of the Commissioner's Court. I would never do that. If I was doing that, I would not be here for 21 years like I have. However, our established pattern is to contract with the principal firm and let them address their joint ventures and partnerships below that.
My question is, under this proposed contract, who assumes the risk? Should something goes wrong, who can we hold accountable to? Who? Is it Van Dyne or is it Yates?
It'll be W.G. Yates and Sons Construction. They'll have a performance bond for the total amount, $56 million construction cost, and they'll also have some general commercial liability insurance with an umbrella policy up to $50 million, which is written in our contract.
Okay. So,
But you will admit that that is not the only way to do this.
You're right, Commissioner. There's other ways to do it. I was just trying to simplify it, and I'm somewhat risk averse by nature.
Where is the additional risk?
Well, with at least my understanding, talking to my peers and reading and listening to others, when you have various partnerships or various joint ventures and those other terms come into play, it can be a little difficult getting to the money if something goes wrong. If nothing goes wrong, which I expect nothing to go wrong here, that would even just have us discuss bonds and general liability insurance ever again on this project. But that is the issue. I want to make it where if something did go wrong, we could certainly have a very direct path to being made whole again.
let me ask you a question. The purpose of forming this partnership, the ultimate goal, is for Yates to mentor and coach and help bring up the capacity of Van Dyne so that one day Van Dyne would be able to become a prime contractor.
That's correct.
Is that the goal?
We want Van Dyne to be part of this $56 million project, get that experience, and so next time they can go out and under the line with experience, they'll have it.
Now, with the proposed arrangement that you are proposing, will Van Dyne still be able to achieve that goal as far as bringing?
Well, if the question's asked by a potential owner, did they contract directly with Tarrant County, the answer is no. If the question is, well, was I a major significant part of the construction of a $56 million courts building, they would be able to say yes, because they will be a significant part of it. I think they've got 2 or 3 team members listed in this, as far as the personnel on this project.
Any other questions, discussion?
Anthony, are you satisfied with the arrangements that's been presented to this court?
I'm satisfied from the term of the role that we actually have, but I would like for Vendime to be just as much a part of the risk as Yates basically has as well, too, and have our name to be a part of this actual contract as well, just my opinion.
If you had the bonding capacity of that amount, you probably could be.
At some point in time, we will.
Right, and I agree you will.
Right now, you can bond only up to $2 million?
That's for a particular single job. Aggregate is about $10 million.
Aggregate about $10 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But again, there is no prohibition and there is no difficulty in having the blanket bond put up by Yates to cover Vendime. It's done all the time.
Guess I wasn't aware of that.
Well, ask him.
Is that correct?
We can provide a bond for a joint venture contract. We've done it before, yes. It is possible, yes. And we're willing to do so if that's the desire of the court.
So you're talking about one bond covering both companies. I don't see the additional risk because there's only one source for the money.
But in this joint venture relationship, can your company, Anthony, being able to assume a portion of that risk?
We'll be able to make sure
over everything?
We'll be able to make sure and assume a portion of the risk that we can actually bond under our capabilities.
If you go part of that bond, you're part of a $50 million bond.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the good side
And on the bad side.
and on the bad side.
Right.
So
Well, I guess at the same time, it's really no different than any other kind of project or construction project we work on. I mean, we have to make sure and cover bonds all the time for the work we actually do. So it's really no different than what we do every single day.
Hey, Ray, can I ask you a question, sir? Sure. From your standpoint, from your professional standpoint, which arrangement is less risky for Tanton County?
I don't think there's much difference.
There's no difference?
I don't think there's much difference. I think ultimately it's more important that the relationship between the county and whoever these guys is a good relationship, and we get along well together, and they have the capability to do the project. That's more important to me than exactly how we paper the arrangement. But I can see ways we could paper this arrangement that it would be the same.
So you don't see adding the additional layer as being anything that adds any difficulty?
Well, I'm going to put them in there as jointly and severally liable and have them both be contracting parties and leave it at that. I'm not going to try to, I think what David's concern is about, and perhaps we talked about this back during Gilbane's days. I don't remember when we talked about this, but I know we didn't talk about this on this.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, it sounds like this is the way we've always done it. Again, I'm not saying it was right or wrong or whatever, but it's just that's historically the way we've done it. So David is bringing us nothing different than what he brought us with the jail and probably with the family law and anything else that we've done where we have approved a joint venture with minority contract.
I'll be unlikely to just call it a joint venture. I don't want to create a third company. I'm going to say Yates and Vendime are jointly and severally liable.
That's not the way right now that's not what was approved, and that's not the way they've got a joint venture. They have a third entity that's a part of this deal. It's not a joint venture, I believe. I believe it's an actual partnership.
Yes, Judge Whitley, is a joint venture partnership. It is not a separate entity. It is a partnership of two companies.
So you're not going to file a tax return on the individual partnership?
We will. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Let me think about that.
Technically, it would be
it's just the way it's worded. I think we can all work on, we haven't worked on the wording because we hadn't thought about it. Well, I haven't thought about it, but we'll work on the wording.
We're going to pull this off the agenda this week, and unless there is objection. And is there an urgency to this? This isn't going to slow down my going out for kids, is it?
No. Yeah, I agree. I withdraw my motion, and I move that we delay
Let's
this to
hold on
get
a second. Let's be sure we're not going to delay anything.
We're going to move forward with advertising this project in December.
Okay. So we can put this off by a week or so and certainly can't.
Certainly we can.
So if you've withdrawn your motion, then we'll just not take any action.
Okay. Thank you.
Today.
I didn't see that coming.
You going to be a little bit easier on us?
I'm hoping so. Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 4 items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda. In your initial version, we inadvertently left off one column that's been corrected, so you have all of the appropriate columns. And again, we're asking the court to receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Second item, we're asking the court to approve the 2012 E-Pass agreement with the Fort Worth Transit Authority. This has been a well-received program. As indicated in your court communique, we have approximately 218 participants. In 2012, we are proposing an increase in employee costs of $10. We've not increased the cost of the pass to employees since 2007. Even with the increase, the county will subsidize over 50% of the cost of the pass.
I move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 3, we're asking the court to approve revisions to the table of organization to add a program assistant position to criminal courts, the direct program. This is a grant-funded position, and so there will be no impact to the general fund.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits for the district attorney's office. The DA's court reporter retired at the end of September with 400 vacation hours. The DA is requesting a waiver of 144 of those vacation hours. The impact to the general fund we're estimating to be a little bit more than $4,700. We are anticipating to offset these costs through salary and benefit savings.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Judge, if I could, this is my one last opportunity to remind everybody that annual enrollment has been ongoing since the beginning of this month. Tomorrow is the last day to get your elections in, so please let us know if we can be of assistance to anybody here in the courtroom or outside of the courtroom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
We have one item for your consideration this morning. That is a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2012-005, annual contract for copier and fax supplies. Our recommendation would be toward the primary and secondary vendors meeting all specifications is shown in court communique on a per unit price basis and a discount for manufacturers' list prices.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Skinner.
Members of the court, we are requesting your approval of an interlocal agreement with the City of Fort Worth related to improvements at the intersection of the US 287 frontage and Avondale-Hassler Road.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any appointments today? Being none, then we'll move on to the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have one item we'd like to bring to the court this morning. This is item A. This concerns the monthly update on the hospital district.
Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Judge.
Morning, Robert.
Commissioners, good morning, Mr. Manius.
Good morning.
Good morning. A couple things I want to give you a quick update on. One of the groups that we have at JPS that is often overlooked is our auxiliary. These are people that volunteer their time to provide services. They deliver books to patients' rooms, magazines. They pop popcorn. They run the gift shop. But another important role they play for our community is the funds that they raise, they give to good causes. And they provided over $1 million to the pavilion that was built some years ago. Very few times, probably in y'all's circumstances, does a group come to you and say, we don't have a project to give money to, do you have any ideas? And so one of the ideas that I had was to give to our new residency program for emergency medicine. That's going to be an ultimate of, it's 11 students this year, and every year will increase by 11 for the next 3 years. It's a great program. We've almost doubled the applicants that went in that program, and this year there were over, I think, 700, and we accepted 11. It's a powerful program. But as you know, as commissioners, we were capped in funding those programs back in the 90s by the state. We get no additional state or federal dollars for it. The auxiliary this last week presented to our board a $175,000 check to the residency program.
Wonderful.
And that was great. And what we were able to do is bring the residents in and have those residents say, part of the reason that I'm able to be at JPS is because of your contribution. So it's very nice. And those folks deserve a round of applause that we gave them. But if you happen to know folks that are part of the auxiliary, and I'll be happy to let you know if I know that your constituents, to let you know of auxiliary members that are in your area that play a key role for us. But they're great folks.
I think it would be appropriate to get their leadership down here and recognize them.
That'd be a good idea.
I'd be honored. That'd be great, and I will suggest that to them, and I would think that they would be as honored as I would be. Thank you, Commissioner. Good suggestion. I'll make that
Also,
happen.
if you could get us a list of whose precincts they're in.
Okay. I'll try my best, and I'll work through your staffs to figure that out. The other thing I wanted to tell you is there was an article in the Star-Telegram that was a nice situation for us. The Carter Foundation gave us $50,000. Now, $50,000 may not sound like a large amount of money, but we take it seriously. And what they're designed to do is start us off in a pilot program for patient safety and patient satisfaction improvement. And again, these ideas might not sound like a big deal, but they are. And the two projects we're going to work on is we have discovered through research that patients will feel better about visiting with their doctor when their doctor has an eye-to-eye contact with them, particularly at eye level. It's very hard to move a patient on the side of their bed and sit down on their bed. So what we're going to do is we're going to put into place what a hospital district in Marietta, Georgia put into place called care chairs. Behind each door of every patient's room will be a chair. The doctor can come in, flip that chair down, and sit next to the patient, next to the bed, and say, let me tell you about your circumstances. And again, that makes a difference. When your doctor comes in your room and stands at the door and doesn't break the threshold or says, just want to make sure, Commissioner Johnson, you okay, this, that, walks out the door, you may not feel like you had the discussion you want. So when you make that act of taking a chair off that back of that door, setting it, opening it, talking to that patient, makes a big difference. The other thing that we're going to do...
Get back with me on that. I'm going to be anxious to see how many of those chairs end up disappearing. You're probably going to end up giving a doctor a chair and saying, you take it with you.
We might.
Somebody will be sitting in that chair when you go into that, and you're going to have to say, would you get up so I can sit down in that chair?
Well, we do have areas for family members to sit, and that was the other thing, is we want to make them move. But the interesting thing that you bring that up is we started a new program by having numerous more wheelchairs available. A wheelchair was an endangered species at JPS for a long period of time, and people were having difficulty with mobility. We put out a bunch of wheelchairs, and there was the suspicion that they would all be gone, and they're not, which is interesting. But I will follow back up with you, because you may well be right. But I'm going to be on the optimistic half full of the glass side to say that I think you're wrong. Respectfully, Judge. Respectfully. So we will try that.
He's in a good mood this morning.
I saw all y'all's good mood a second ago. The other thing that we're doing, and again, it's a small set of circumstances, but it's a major impact. A lot of hospitals will have whiteboards, and on the whiteboard will have your doctor's name, your nurse's name, the time of day, those type of things. But over time, they start looking a little ugly. It's been erased so many times you can't see the name. We're actually putting in poster boards for the room that will have the nurse's name, any other service that you get, the treatments that you're going to get that day, the times of the treatments that you're going to receive, so you have better awareness. And they'll be in the two major languages that we speak, which is English and Spanish, and then we have sections for Vietnamese as well that we can put the names of the individuals up and give them treatments and let them know. Those boards, those patient boards, are going to make a big difference for folks, and I want to thank the Carter Foundation for allowing us to do that. We're going to start them out. The boards are going to be in every room. The chairs are going to be a pilot program, and we're going to see how it goes. But I think those are initiatives to help us be better at patient satisfaction in all levels, and try to think through that. The other thing is I did want to announce to you all the election of our Board of Officers. We had the nominating committee nominate Scott Fisher as the board chair again, Trent Petty as the vice chair, and Reverend Ralph Emerson as our secretary. And that will be your slate of officers for 2012. Just wanted to give you an update on that, and that was unanimous. The last thing I'd like to tell you is we had tried to schedule a tour of county staff, directors, managers, and others at the county level, because what we've discovered is there's a lot of folks that work here who have not seen JPS and not seen it recently. We tried to do that last month, and we had some conflicts schedule-wise. It was really tough for your team here at the county to come down. So we're going to reschedule that for the latter part of January. And what our hope is to have 20 or 30 folks from leadership within the county come and take a tour at JPS. And the reason I want to provide that tour is very similar to the tour that y'all have had. It's what we call our trauma tour. I really want people to see how their money's being spent, and more importantly, I want them to see a trauma situation when they're not a trauma victim. I want them to be able to see, to give assurances to their family and themselves what kind of situation they're going to see at JPS. Rather than being in that situation, I want them to know what they have. Plus, they're all, as all of our tours are these days, and we've provided tours to about 400 people in the last year, they're all unfiltered. We don't announce our tours. You're going to see what's going on that day in any respect. So I look forward to putting that together. Mr. Manius' office has been hugely helpful to us in getting the list of names and getting out information, but y'all are going to take a tour, and we'll have a fun time with y'all and go from there. Any questions that y'all have, I'm happy to entertain them.
What is the status of the state Medicaid waiver?
I just got back from a conference yesterday. We had a 2-day conference, Sunday and Monday, down in Austin, and met with HHSC staff. And they are very optimistic. In fact, the point that they told me, they said, we're 98% sure this will be signed. All the information has transferred from the state to CMS. CMS has signed off on it and sent it to the Office of Management Budget. And they'll look at the issue of budget neutrality. This 5-year plan of the waiver must be budget neutral. The budget amount indicated for that 5-year period of time is a $32 billion figure. They'll look at that and make sure that that's budget neutral as to what was being received. That's where they are right now. So it's at the OMB's office. And once OMB signs off on budget neutrality or tweaks with the number as they see fit, then it should come back down to Texas with approval. And it's a massive plan. And part of the reason we all got together, it was about 150 hospital leaders throughout the state talking about when the waiver goes into place, what you need to do. I think this waiver will revolutionize the way we offer care in Texas, because it will create some continuums of care statewide, and I think it will be a huge help to us. And it's our intention at JPS to give each one of you a briefing on the waiver, what it means, and the impact. I know, Commissioner, you've had the luxury of being a leader in Washington on it, and you've had your input and your comments on dealing with Medicaid, Medicare funding, but we'll give you a briefing on the waiver specific to Texas, And those of you, the other commissioners and judge, will give you briefings, so you know what that money is and what it will look like, and what the new configuration, because the public hospital will play a significant role. Thank you,
I
Commissioner.
want to thank you all for your Veterans Celebration last Friday. I thought it went off very well, and it was a great event. So,
thank you for your addition. Your speech was well taken by the employees. Thank you all very much.
I'd also like to say a thank you to the Amon Carter Foundation, not only for its grant to JPS Health Network, but for also funding a reentry program for our county jail, which is a partnership, as I understand it, between the sheriff and Cornerstone Assistance Network.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chief Knowles was pivotal in putting this together.
anything else, Mr. Mayes?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
We'll recess our open session now and move into closed session to discuss items exempted under Section 551.07, 1072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
I used to love to get hot dogs from that lady.
Me too.
Well, why don't we pull her inside of the, why don't we pull her inside of the building code line and just tell her she's a county business? Having returned from closed session, there being no business to take care of at this time, we are adjourned.
That's because you'd have to put out an RFP.
Who does our, I mean, we do the public health permits, so we ought to be able to